So this video podcast discusses California's reenactment rule. In the California Constitution, Article 4, Section 9, it provides a section of a statute may not be amended unless the section is reenacted as amended. What on earth does that mean? Well, basically, according to the appellate courts in the state, the purpose of the constitutional reenactment rule, which prohibits amending a section of statute unless the section is reenacted in its amended form, is to basically to avoid enactment of statutes in terms so blind that legislators themselves are deceived in regard to their effect. So this rule applies to bills which are amending a current act or code section. The reenactment rule does not apply to new additions of code or an entirely independent act. In other words, when you add a new code section, the legislature is not required to reenact other code sections that were affected by that change. There have been a number of appellate court decisions addressing the reenactment rule in this state. At least one court has opined that non-substantive amendments cannot serve to reenact substantive provisions of an invalid statute. The court said that the bill in this case made a non-substantive technical amendment to an invalid statute as it continued to appear in the annotated codes. And basically the court said it couldn't have served to reenact the substantive provisions because the underlying statute was invalid. There was also an instance in 2015 where the California Supreme Court addressed whether a section of the Revenue and Taxation Code violated the reenactment rule of the California Constitution. They said that one of the purposes of the provision is to ensure that legislators are aware of statutory changes when they adopt legislation and to ensure that the public was apprised of these changes in the law as they could see them in the bill. On that particular issue, the California Supreme Court found that even without a reenactment of that Rev and Tax Code section to address the change, the legislature and the public were reasonably notified of the changes in the law because the enactment of that section requiring the use of what's called a double weighted sales factor expressly referenced a tax compact and stated that it applied notwithstanding the other code section. So under this provision of the California Constitution, the legislature is required to reenact a code section when the bill amends that particular code section that's already in existence. In reviewing the contents of a bill that amends a code section, this rule also ensures that the reader of the bill can easily identify what changes are being proposed by the bill to the existing code section that is being amended, because that bill sets forth the changes within the context of the current statute. Note the distinction between how California does it versus the federal government and the US Congress.